All right, calm down. You are not hallucinating. The moon has risen once again. So after the positive reception to my last video, I started to wonder why I don't share more of the pure insanity I bear witness to every day. Truthfully, I don't have the time or energy to crash out, and that's exactly what would happen if I did. Hi, it's Kayla, by the way. If you've seen my What Really Happened series, this video kind of falls into that category. Today, I want to discuss NetJames, who they are, their short-lived run, and everything leading up to their split. In other words, what really happened between Net and James? That's what everyone is curious about. Luckily for you, I was a huge NetJames fan and I witnessed everything go down in real time. Get ready for my extensive knowledge of useless fandom lore. Well, in this case, I'm making use of it. We're also going to touch on shipping culture and the fans' reactions when an acting pair moves on with different partners. So stay tuned for all this and more. Let's start with some background information. Net and James are two actors signed under Domundi, and up until a couple months ago, they were in a fairly successful BL pairing together. Their series Bedfriend garnered a small but dedicated fandom, and they were well on their way to becoming a strong predecessor to the company's other pairings. Sponsorships, ambassadorships, photo shoots, and fan meets. For a moment in time, they had it all. They even had a new series in the works. The pilot trailer for their upcoming series, Love Upon a Time, was released on June 5th, 2023, with an undetermined airing date. Now, I want to take a minute to explain how trailer releases work in the Thai entertainment industry. Basically, production companies will film a trailer months in advance to the actual filming of the series. Then, they will use that trailer to attract sponsors that will fund the production of the series. Think of it like a first draft of an essay. By the time you get to that final draft, many things will have changed. Unfortunately, Love Upon a Time fell victim to one very significant change. On February 29th of this year, Mandiwork, which is the production company that Domundi partners with, made an announcement regarding James and the future of his series with Net. In essence, they stated that James would be withdrawing from Love Upon a Time and taking a step back from acting to pursue art. Net, on the other hand, would be continuing with the project. At the time of this announcement, Domundi was still trying to find someone to fill the role that James would have been playing, so inevitably, the production was postponed. That same day, James took to Twitter and addressed the fans directly. He says that dropping out of the series was something he's been contemplating for a while now, and he thanks Net and their team for respecting his decision. You'll notice that James has a tendency to apologize for everything, and that's exactly what he goes on to do in this tweet. He's especially apologetic towards the fans, who he promises to work even harder for. Net responded to his tweet, thanking him for everything and encouraging him to do well. And that, my friends, marked the end of the NetJames pairing. There is something I want to briefly explain before moving on. Domundi is not a production company. They're an artist management company. I've seen some confusion around that, so I just wanted to clarify. James is still signed under them, but they're sort of marketing him as an influencer now. Here's where it gets interesting, because Love Upon a Time was actually postponed once before. To elaborate, the series was first announced in 2022. The earliest post I could find regarding the series dates back to December 14th of that year. Now that is an unusually long production period for a series of this kind. Thai BLs typically have a turnover rate of a few months, a year at the max. It's like a fast-moving assembly line that doesn't stop for anything. Think of GMMTV and how they air one BL after another. So when it came to Love Upon a Time, fans were pretty much left in the dark. A teaser that was posted in 2022 slated the series for release in 2023. Obviously, that never happened, so it's safe to assume that production was delayed. Funnily enough, Bedfriend experienced a similar delay in production. The earliest post I could find regarding that series dates back to May 3rd, 2021, but the series itself didn't begin airing until February 18th, 2023. So as you can see, there's a bit of a pattern going on here. I will say, however, that we do know why Bedfriend was delayed. Originally, the series The Middleman's Love was supposed to air before Bedfriend. For reference, The Middleman's Love and Bedfriend are set in the same universe with the same characters, so it was important for the stories to line up correctly. In short, The Middleman's Love was delayed due to a cast change. Jimmy and Tommy were supposed to play the lead roles, but Jimmy went on hiatus to focus on his mental health, so Domundi recast the series with Tudor and Yim instead. Naturally, one series being delayed meant both series being delayed, and eventually Bedfriend did end up airing first. The reason why is because Bedfriend focuses primarily on the characters played by Net and James, whereas the entirety of The Middleman's Love had to undergo significant changes before filming. In the aftermath of Bedfriend, the fandom redirected their attention to Love Upon a Time, and the speculations started running wild. Fans were very critical of the way that Domundi was managing the NetJames pairing. While they were receiving countless opportunities outside of acting, fans were heavily accusing Domundi's founder, P. Ofshin, of neglecting NetJames and favoring other pairings over them. This caused a lot of animosity between NetJames fans, Xenonu fans, Tudor Yim fans, and MaxNat fans. The girlies were fighting, and I fear they still are to this day. There isn't solid proof of P. Ofshin mismanaging NetJames, but I do think that companies like Domundi and GMMTV cultivate an environment where pairings must compete against each other. Obviously, multiple pairings under the same company can achieve ungodly levels of popularity, but the infighting we often see is proof enough that even if the actors aren't competing, the fandoms are. And in my opinion, the companies encourage it. There was a long stretch of time where NetJames fans were just frustrated by the lack of transparency and were questioning if Love Upon a Time was happening at all. The fact that Mandy was filming and airing shows that were announced after Love Upon a Time caused both anger and skepticism. Maybe these emotions wouldn't have been so intense if there were updates of some kind. However, if nothing's going on, then there are no updates to share. As someone who went to school for production, I tend to have more patience when it comes to waiting for a series because I know how difficult that process is and how many hands go into it. So although I also felt that frustration, I wasn't too concerned. That is, until Domundiland in Japan. If you aren't familiar, Domundiland is Domundi's annual concert that features all of the company's artists. On February 21st, 2024, they decided to have a show in Tokyo, Japan. The set list was expected to be identical to the original show that was held in Bangkok on January 13th. However, fans that were in attendance soon realized that the NetJames collaboration stage had been cut from the show. At the Bangkok date, Net and James covered the song Deja You by the girl group Pixie, but at the Tokyo date, the performance simply wasn't included. Needless to say, fans were enraged. Again, there was this lack of transparency about what was going on, and it fueled those arguments over neglect and favoritism. 8 days later, James' departure was announced. Looking back on Domundiland in Japan and the statement that soon followed, I personally believe the NetJames stage was cut from the show as a way to prepare fans for the pairing's split. At that point, Net and James knew they would no longer be promoting as a couple, but I don't know if they were planning to release the announcement so soon after the concert. It just felt rushed, like Mandy was trying to rip off a band-aid before it got worse. Either way, the abrupt nature of the pairing split sent a shockwave through the entire BL community. I've been a fan of Thai BL for 6 years now, and the NetJames divorce, as I jokingly call it, is definitely top 5 in terms of unexpected BL news that left me aghast. No amount of speculation could have prepared me for that. In a situation such as this, fans tend to look for someone to blame. At first, it was Pete Ofshin, and then it became James. Some NetJames fans turned on James after the news broke, accusing him of betraying Net and even queerbaiting. They went from hyping him up for the last few years to suddenly calling him a bad dancer, a bad singer, another straight man playing gay. It's interesting how people will do a complete 180 when a celebrity doesn't do exactly what they want them to do. And it shows that they only ever viewed James and Net as objects. I understand getting caught up in the fantasy that's being sold to you, but at some point, you have to step back from that keyboard and reevaluate the harm that your words are causing. Just the other day, on September 6th, James tweeted out regarding the endless hate he's been receiving. He said that he's tired, and he knows that people will be critical of him no matter what he does. He even apologized to the haters for possibly doing something to make them uncomfortable. It's just so sad that instead of celebrating the relaunch of his clothing brand Black Daisy, he has to deal with these individuals who have yet to evolve from Neanderthals. I know that's harsh for me to say, but I'm not going to sit back and watch these individuals inundate James with kill yourself messages during Suicide Prevention Month. Miss me with that. As for the queerbaiting accusations, if you've seen my video exploring that issue, you already know what I'm going to say. You cannot, in good faith, accuse someone who you don't know of queerbaiting without first assuming their sexuality, and second, assuming their gender. And what's worse is those assumptions are always made based on stereotypes. More recently, Net has begun working closely with an up-and-coming actor named JJ. It's been confirmed that JJ will be filling James's role in Love Upon a Time, and it appears that Net JJ will begin promoting as a ship. The fans' reception to this ship change is divided. Some scorned NetJames fans have sent hate to JJ, while others are vocal about their preference for NetJJ. We've seen similar reactions to ship changes many times before, and every single time I ask myself the question, does shipping culture need to change, or is it the fans' responsibility to recognize this system for what it is? A business, not a matchmaking service, not a dating show, but a money-making tactic implemented under a capitalist society. That's a lot of words to reiterate the fact that business is business, but you get what I'm saying. To be honest, I don't think there's a right or wrong answer, but like most things in this world, two things can be true at once. On one hand, actors do ship work together to supply a demand, to stand out from other pairings, and to even attract sponsors. On the other hand, when the fans who ship them together get out of line, the actors are often told that they're the ones inciting it, that they're the ones faking it, and once again, that they're queerbaiting. Then you have to consider the company's role in shipping culture. Are they perpetuating a problem by encouraging these actors to satisfy the fans' wants? Are they doing enough to protect their actors from those fans who take it too far? I'm reminded of that scene in War of Why where Pan says to his acting partner, "If we do fan service, we get insulted. If we don't do fan service, we get insulted." What kind of shipped couple do they want us to be? Shipping is fun when the exchange remains lighthearted, but when the parasocial relationship flares up, it's a lose-lose situation for everyone involved. I think the main question on everyone's mind is, why did James leave his pairing with Net? Clearly, they were set up to have a thriving career, and despite all the production delays, the interest people had in them never slowed down. So why jump ship? Personally, I believe that James got tired of waiting around for Love Upon a Time. When the filming of a series is constantly being postponed, that leaves the actors with no work for long periods of time. In the meantime, all the money they're earning from the events they're attending is being funneled directly into the production of this series that hasn't even made it into pre-production. And then there's the fact that contractually, actors have to ask for permission to pursue other things outside of the work they're doing with their acting partner. So imagine your future being uncertain, and then you see an opportunity to pursue something you're passionate about. For James, that passion is art, and a little singing and dancing every now and then. I'm sure it was a tough decision to make, leaving a ship that was met with such love. But what fans tend to forget is that this decision was fully supported by Net. On the same day as Mandy's announcement, Net went live on Instagram and spoke briefly about the situation. In this live, he explains that he and James want to pursue different paths. He says that despite this being the end of their pairing, they'll still be supporting each other. He also says that they've been discussing this for a while now and he feels okay with their decision. After thanking James and their staff, he gets too choked up to continue speaking and he pauses for some time to compose himself. From the fans' perspective, their split was sudden, but according to Net, it was a long time coming. And while there have been some messy breakups in the BL world, NetJames was never one of them. The two have remained friends just as they've always been. So I feel sympathy for Net when he sees all these people dogpile onto his friend, the same people who claim to be his fan. In addition, he has this new partner to take into consideration and basically start all over with. It's a lot for both of them, all of them including JJ, who is truly just out there vibing. James also went live on February 29th to speak face-to-face with fans. He talked about finding joy in things outside of acting and how it sparked a conversation between him and Net. He said that he realized those things made him happier than acting did, so he would take any opportunity he could to pursue them. He also made a point to thank P. Option for understanding him. It was pretty much the Instagram version of his tweet. Similar to Net, there was a moment where James went completely silent and fought to hold back tears. Their sincerity towards one another and the situation was undeniable. You would be hard-pressed to find someone who disagrees with that. Another key detail to this story is the injury that James sustained following Domundiland in Japan. On February 27th, James fell down a flight of stairs in his home, significantly injuring his leg. He was left with a deep wound that required 15 stitches and essentially immobilized him. In the days following, he was quite vocal about his struggles with performing basic tasks like walking, showering, and making coffee. He opened up to fans about the excruciating pain and how his leg hurt so badly he couldn't sleep. The mental toll this injury put on him was evident throughout his Instagram lives. Fortunately, everyone rallied to help him, including his sister Yoke. The hashtag #GetWellSoonJamesSue was used by Net and many others to show their support. Now, the reason why I bring this up in relation to NetJames is because I've seen some people speculate that James dropped out of Love Upon a Time due to his leg injury, but that doesn't quite fit into the timeline of events. His injury occurred only 2 days before Mandy made their announcement, so technically, if Net and James were already planning to part ways for some time, James's injury wouldn't have caused any additional delays to the production. Again, that's just my theory of why James left. I could be totally off, so don't take my word for it. But even if NetJames went through with Love Upon a Time, it seems like the split was already going to happen due to their differing career goals. It was just a matter of when. I nearly forgot how close in succession all these events occurred, literally one after another within mere days. I don't know how they didn't lose their minds because at the time, I surely did. Anyway, the reason I like using the word divorce for Net and James's situation is because they can no longer be seen together even though they hang out all the time. Why is that? Well, we've seen how volatile some fans' reactions to ship changes can be. I think Net and James are doing this as a way to avoid more hate and to separate their images from one another. Not to bring up Perth and Saint again, but it reminds me so much of their situation. You only see them together every now and then at the miscellaneous awards show, and ironically enough, our last NetJames sighting was at an awards show. NetJames won Best Series for Bedfriend at the Kaz Awards this year, and they accepted the award together. You know when your parents are divorced and they both have to show up to your graduation? That's what it felt like. I swear to you, I'm not delusional, but I may have shed a tear. Now, after that comprehensive lesson on NetJames, what is the main takeaway? Well, I think it's best to respect others' decisions even if you don't agree with them. I also think it's okay and at times necessary to be selfish. Sometimes you have no choice but to put yourself first, and that doesn't mean you care about anyone else less. Net and James worked so hard to establish themselves as a BL pairing, and while I don't think they expected things to turn out this way, the reality is shit happens, and you just have to accept it and move on with your life. There's a lesson for you. So I wrote this voiceover before James went viral for that clip of him singing, and I've been contemplating whether to address that in this video or not since it's irrelevant to the topic. However, after lurking online per usual, I've realized that it is relevant. James leaving his BL ship permanently soured people's attitude towards him. It's like empathy is something people expect him to earn. Having a negative opinion about his singing ability isn't a crime, and even turning his cover into a meme isn't that serious. The part that I find troubling is this blatantly racist mocking of an Asian accent combined with this utter disregard for mental health. There was never a shred of constructive criticism being made. What is constructive about harassing his friends and family, or making content off the back of his childhood trauma? If someone opens up to you about being bullied as a child and your first response is to laugh at them, you're the problem. And if standing by your friend when they're going through a hard time is considered enabling, then so be it. Because right now, there are people in your life that are enabling you to go online and act a fool. It goes both ways, that's all I'm saying. I've never had to belittle others to get clicks, but that's just me. James knows he's not Mariah Carey, and no one but Mariah Carey is born with a voice like that. I'm one of those people who will try something and immediately quit when I'm not good at it. So I admire people who keep trying despite the naysayers telling them to quit. Sit down and ask yourself, where would I be if I had listened to that person who said I couldn't do it? I know where I would be, and the answer is not alive. So think before you speak and present your opinions thoughtfully, because we're all human, we're all susceptible to emotions, and we have to set a better example for future generations. Thank you to the moon and back for watching, and shout out to my bestie Shar for perhaps being the only other person in the world who was as deeply invested in NetJames as me. If you want to hear more discourse about shipping culture, I highly suggest checking out these 2 Lovecast episodes we recently filmed because we touch a lot on that topic in both of them. Leave your thoughts about that topic or anything else I covered in the comments down below, and please, for the love of God, choose kindness. Again, thanks for watching. I'll see you all in the next video. Bye!